joins me, who is Vincent Sullivan. He's a former FBI special agent. And Vincent, I want to pick up with you where that friend and others have left off. You know, I'm on Twitter while I'm on the air and look at the tweets, and people get upset when people describe a suspected terrorist as a sweet kid, a nice guy, a normal guy. But those are the facts coming into us. Fact witnesses are telling us that was the case. You say that doesn't surprise you one bit. Why?
Well, Megan, I think we hear this all the time when neighbors are interviewed, and we hear that same line, gee, he was such a nice guy, he was a quiet neighbor, kept to himself, I didn't even know he owned a bazooka. So we hear it all the time, it's almost become cartoonish. I think it stems from the fact that a lot of the interviewees, the analysts, are not as close by this last kid's own admission. He didn't know the suspect that well. And he's a young gentleman himself, so maybe his powers to analyze are not that sophisticated. Family members are usually biased. They don't always see or won't tell us all the things they're actually thinking. And the plain fact of the matter is that most of us as humans do compartmentalize our life. We have various personas which we display at work, others that we display at home, others we display with our very closest friends, others we display on the athletic field.
So you're not surprised that somebody who could be described as a sweet kid, who maybe genuinely was a sweet kid at some point, by the time he turns 19 years old, can easily walk by an 8-year-old and drop a bomb at his feet and walk away, and a couple days later post on his Twitter feed something to the effect of, I'm a stress-free kind of guy.
We heard similar assessments of Ted Bundy and other serial killers, so no, it does not surprise me.
Wow. And what do you make of the fact that it sounds like the older brother took a trip within the last year, at least that's our initial information right now, back to Russia? I mean, they're not saying that he went back to, you know, Afghanistan, but back to Russia, and, you know, then came back. And it sounds like within the last couple of years, he may have become a little bit more radicalized, perhaps more devout, some more controversial postings from what we can tell now on his Facebook page. Does that sound like the beginning of it?
Well, travel, especially international travel, is one of the premier features that is looked at in any investigation because, as you mentioned, it's a place to be radicalized. It's a place out of the prying eyes of American security. So we always, and I'm sure they're looking at the travel of both these young guys and are going to try to get a handle on what their travel history is, because travel is a big indicator of radicalization.
Vincent, as we look at the scene here in Cambridge and the police telling us that there would be a, quote, controlled explosion in Cambridge later today, you know, and this is speculation right now, because all I know is I'm being told that our cameras are outside of the suspect's house, which they've just cordoned off. Why would they be doing that controlled explosion?
Well, I think you had a pretty good guess about it. Under the circumstances, because the scene is still hot, they don't know where the subject 2 is, and they have shown the ability, demonstrated the ability that they had explosive devices. If they have a strange object in front of them and the investigators need to get into that building or be around that object, they'll go ahead and blow it up before it blows them up.
And even understanding that that would sacrifice potentially a wealth of evidence, I mean, is there any way to both protect the officer's safety and preserve that evidence?
I'm sure that almost any jurisdiction, but especially the Boston law enforcement community, is going to make sure that everybody goes home tonight that possibly can, and even if we lose some evidence, that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, amen. I mean, as we've already seen, a law enforcement official killed from MIT, and another a Boston police officer who was in critical condition, the last we heard. And actually, there are reports of up to 15 police officers who were in the hospital, although they're not saying as a result of last night, but they're not tying that specifically to the incident we saw. I want to ask you about the effort now in Boston, because I think folks are wondering, are they going to get the guy? It's almost 3 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be dark in about 5 hours here on the East Coast. And it sort of boggles the mind that you think this 19-year-old is evading thousands of police officers who are scouring that city right now.
Yeah, well, you've discussed, and your guests have discussed, several possibilities that could be hampering this, and one is that subject 2 was injured in the shootout, which injured and eventually killed his brother. he may have bled out somewhere. He may be in the basement of a building, and because the search is going on methodically and slowly, they just haven't found him yet. Megan, if you think back, who'd have thought that we would be here only, 24 hours after these photographs were released by the FBI? This investigation is going very quickly, and I think that he will be found. I would like to say, however, that a colleague of mine, Dr. Lillian Glass, and I wrote a book about a year ago, which was addressing the American population and trying to bring up their awareness level so that they could participate in their own security. And we anticipated that this day would come when attacks would not just be against military targets or even law enforcement or our political center or our financial center, but just among Joe Sixpack watching a race. And I think that the most salient event in this whole bad week was that these two brothers were able to walk into that many people, set down two fairly large backpacks and walk away, and unfortunately no one noticed.
And that is one of the reasons, among many, that they want to take this guy alive. I mean, to ask more questions about how it was done, whether there was help. The latest information we had was that they are highly suspicious about the notion that these two could have done it all by themselves, and wondering whether there is any international tie to the behavior of these men. And that's just one of the many things they're hoping to find. Let me just ask you quickly, Vincent, before I let you go, because now we're getting the father on tape, and it's going to have to be translated. So we're in the process of doing that. We're going to show it to you momentarily. But I do want to ask you about, let's say this doesn't end well for Jahar Tsarnaev, and he goes out, suicide by cop, however it's going to happen. Is there, what would be the next best source of evidence about how he got to this point in life for the police?
Just from what I've seen, Megan, I think the two brothers were taken by surprise by this sharp turn of events, the release of their photos. I think they were taken by surprise by law enforcement coming upon them, and I think they had more things planned. I'll bet that where they lived, their friends, their phone records, their social media are going to be a treasure trove of information, and we'll eventually work back and find out all about them.
Okay, now I'm just getting in my ear. So we're doing the translation that we're getting. The father is in Russia and is speaking in Russian, is my understanding. And so now we're translating his tape, and we're going to show that to the viewer shortly. So I'm going to hold you over for just a minute, Vincent, while we get this ready to show and play for the viewers, and ask you, what will be the police procedure from this point forward? It's almost 3 p.m. Eastern time. So how will they, without any sight of him, continue? Let's say they finish. They go to door to 100% of the homes in the area, and they still don't have him. Then what?
Well, this has happened more than once. If at first you don't succeed, try again. They may go back and research. They may have to expand the perimeter. I hate to use the word arbitrarily, but they've come up with a perimeter that they've cordoned off and in which they're searching. If they don't find him in that perimeter, I think they may widen the perimeter, but they may also research. There could have been preparations on the part of these two brothers to hide in rafters or under floorboards that maybe the law enforcement has missed first time around, but they're not going home.
Mm-hmm. And the police continue to search not just for this man, but for anybody connected to him that knows something about this or may have provided help. Vincent, thank you. We're queuing up the dad's sound. I mean, this will be the first we've heard from the father of the suspects.
Great first gig. Let's go. Hey. Yep. Party!
Aww.
We are out of here.
Oh.
Party!
Finding you the perfect place every step of the way. Hotels.com.
Crouching in average jeans. Crouching in Duluth trading ballroom jeans.